Daryl Moose Johnston, Fox Sports analyst, three-time Super Bowl champ with the Cowboys. He called the Niners-Redskins game yesterday with Chris Myers, and Moose joins us now. What's the most pain you ever been in as a football player?
Back pain. And well, the neck too, because it's a different kind of pain. It's that nerve pain that nothing really seems to mitigate. So yeah, that and then you fall asleep in the afternoon because you've been fighting the pain. You've been fighting the pain all day. So,
well, I remember when Emmett played with that separated shoulder, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That had to be painful for a running back.
Yeah, exactly, because of the movement. It's funny, the shoulder is like a joint that nobody really considers important on you in the world of football, I guess, because, if you hurt an ankle or a knee or elbows, everybody's always concerned, but with a shoulder, it's just like, well, we'll just shoot up and you can go play. You can't brush your teeth, you can't comb your hair. You find out how much you actually use your shoulder once you hurt it. So, yeah, that was a tough one for him, and that lingers for a while.
How much hiding of injuries goes on, or at least went on when you played?
Well, to the point during my career was when they got really strict with kind of the classification of the injury. Whether he, doubtful, out. The categories that they have in place, probable. They wanted a little bit more strictness with the classification, because some guys at the end of the week would all of a sudden go from probable to out. And they felt like they were kind of hiding something that was going on early in the week. And then I know we actually had a situation, but it was a Friday injury. Troy actually hurt his thumb on Friday, getting ready for a San Francisco game. And so he was on the injury report Friday, probably not as out, but it was a pretty substantial injury. That was one of the times that the league came to us and said, "Okay, we just need to know, who's injured, going into the weekend." And that's and then I think Jimmy then would put like anybody who had anything on the injury list and send like 20 guys to the
NFL. What did you take away from the Cowboys last night? That performance against the Eagles.
Well, that's who they can be, and that's been kind of the frustrating part for them this year. They've been very inconsistent, very up and down. So when they're functioning and firing on all cylinders, that's the potential that team has. The takeaway thing is obviously a huge part at the early part of that game. It's something that they've struggled with for the past couple of years, and they work on it, they preach it, they teach it, but they haven't been able to transfer it from the practice field to the game field. But they did last night, and that's a huge part for them. So, that's got to be the frustrating part, not only for the fans, but for the players also, knowing, what the potential is and the fact that they got on that 3-game losing streak.
If Jason Garrett's a hot commodity, as Jerry Jones says, then why doesn't he just sign him to a new deal?
Great question. I think it'll get done. I'm sure that there's probably a benchmark that the organization has out there that they'd like to see the team achieve, and then they'll kind of work through that decision. But
what do you think that is, Moose? How far do they have to go? I think the NFC title game for Jason to keep his job. But look, I've been wrong the past couple of years with what I thought was going to be Jerry Jones' tolerance here.
I'm always a guy that at the end of a season, you really have to look back and see if you didn't reach the goals that you wanted to reach, what were the reasons why? Because a lot of times there's actual reasons why. But if you're free and clear, if you don't have a major injury, if there wasn't some type of adversity during the course of the season that kind of gave you a big bump in the road, then you've got to evaluate, very, very hard. But I would agree with you. If we're saying that we have to get better every season, then the benchmark for the Dallas Cowboys would be at least an appearance in the NFC Championship game, which would show growth from previous seasons. And that's the big challenge right now with Jason, is Jason hasn't got beyond the divisional round. So that would be a huge step for Jason and for the team. So if the organization is taking the position that we have to see improvement from the previous seasons under this staff, and Jason Garrett specifically, then an appearance in the NFC Championship game would be that benchmark. But what happens down the rest of the season? Is there something that happens later this year that you look back on it and say, well, yeah, we were supposed to go to the championship game, but because of this, maybe that was an expectation that was too high.
He's Moose Johnston, Fox Sports analyst, 3-time Super Bowl champ with the Cowboys. He called the Niners and the Redskins yesterday. Niners for real, where would you rank them with the pecking order of NFC teams right now?
I think the best thing that they've done is they've gotten to 6-0 with their fourth and fifth offensive tackle without Kyle Juszczyk, who is a type of player that allows the running game and play action game to expand in San Francisco's offense, and without one of their starting corners. So I think that shows that they have depth, that the staff is smart in their game planning to make sure that those injuries don't become an impact on the game. So the big thing about San Francisco, as good as they're playing right now, how good are they going to look in 4 weeks from now? 5 weeks from now, when Joe Staley's back, McGlinchey's back, Juszczyk is back, Witherspoon is back, because then that offense, the defense is carrying that team right now. The offense is doing enough, but my big thing is what does this team look like when everybody's back and healthy? So I think they are legitimate, but I think the West is also very tough. When you've got Seattle, the Rams, and Arizona. Arizona's starting to figure it out. With all the change that happened in the off season, that takes a little bit of time to get the chemistry back with the group, and it looks like Arizona's figuring some stuff out. So they could be a team that sneaks up and gives some issues to one of those top teams in the West.
It feels like there's at least one game a year with the Redskins at home where they remind us of just how bad their football field is, or is that just me? I mean, to me, it look. I know that it wasn't ideal conditions, but it almost feels like it's a Division III football program with that field.
Dan, that's a great point. And they took the tarp off, and within 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the tarp being taken off that field, there was already puddles forming. The grass is not thick. You can actually see some bare spots from our booth, from the broadcast booth down to the field. You could see about 6 areas on the field that were puddling, 45 minutes prior to kick. My big thing is how close some of the seats are at the end of the end zones. I'm amazed that we haven't had a severe injury at FedEx Field, with a guy at the back of the end zone trying to make a catch and getting pushed. Because to me, there's just not enough space there, for safety. And, I agree. I think that the Redskins, one of the things they really seriously need to consider is either upgrading that one or moving to something different, or finding a new groundskeeper. At least, because it gets dangerous, in situations when you have the weather that we had, and you have a field that can't absorb that water and it can't get rid of it. I mean, you get to other fields and you see how it holds the bad weather, whether it's rain, snow. The majority of the fields in the NFL function well, but that one was not. That was not NFL caliber yesterday, and they're lucky that somebody didn't get hurt.
Maybe they changed ownership there.
You never know.
No, I don't think that's.
I don't think so.
No, I don't know. I don't think so either. But that might solve a lot of things there, because it feels like the front office doesn't take any blame for this. It's everybody else takes the blame for what the Redskins have done. Would you just start tanking if you're? Are they tanking?
No, guys don't do that. It was so frustrating when they said that about the Miami Dolphins. You can't get 53 men to tank. You work too hard.
But I can put an inferior product.
Not motivated to play for.
Moose, I can. This is called front office tanking. It's like Derek Jeter and the Marlins. They put an inferior product on the field. The guys on the field are going to play hard, but it feels like Miami has put an inferior product on the field, just like the Miami Marlins did.
Well, you're going through a massive restructuring with Brian Flores. He's going to put his own spin on it. He's grabbing assets as quickly as he can. He's got a window that he thinks he needs to perform in, so he's doing it that way. We're gonna overhaul this whole thing. It happened when Jimmy came in. There was a lot of guys in and out of our locker room, on and off our roster. That first year and a half with Jimmy. So everybody understands the transition when we have a new head coach. But to say that Washington is tanking, there's some talented football players on that team. Ryan Kerrigan's not going to tank. Jonathan Allen's not going to tank. There's too much pride in that, and coaches watch, and that's one of the things that you try to tell the fans when they bring up this topic is there's free agency in this league, and if you're not happy here, there's going to be an opportunity for you to go somewhere else. But if you've put on your resume that you're a guy who doesn't play hard the entire game because something happened during the course of that season, they're going to remember that. They're going to know that, and they're not going to bring you onto their team if they have, the suspicion that you're a guy that, hey, when things go wrong, this is a guy that doesn't play hard. You're not going to get the opportunities to stay long in this league. So it's frustrating for me when I hear scenarios like that. Sometimes it's business generated. Sometimes it's just what's going on that season. But it's hard for me to accept that players would be tanking on the field.
Moose, great to talk to you. Please give our best to Chris Myers, and thanks for joining us. Safe travels.
Absolutely. Good luck with those ibuprofen.
Thank you, bud. Yeah, I need something a little stronger. Daryl Moose Johnston, Fox Sports analyst and three-time Super Bowl champ with the Cowboys.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.